So what's been going on, Richie, these days? You're going to get ready for a tour?
Oh yeah, I've been. We kicked it off. We kicked it off in South America. Went down there and did 6 shows in Brazil. We did 2 in Chile and 1 in Argentina. And I'm doing a little reset here in California. And then I'm heading to the East Coast and doing a run over there.
And what all that basically you're doing, from May to June and July?
Yeah, we've got about 18 days booked starting in Florida, and we're working our way up the coast. Going to finish off in Massachusetts, and then there's a few shows in Costa Rica, and then there's a few dates in England. So it's going to go into June, and then I've taken off the summer because every summer I've been actually on tour as well. So I figured I'd stay home and enjoy the summer, and then I'm going to go back to Europe for about 2 months in the fall. And the first gig we're doing is going to be in Turkey, which is going to be pretty interesting. It's one place I've never been, so that should be fun.
Now, talking about, going to, places that not a lot of people go to, what do you think of going to places like that, Turkey, and, going down to other places?
It's cool. I've been pretty lucky, I've gotten to really get out there and see a lot of the world, and in a way where I'm playing my music, which makes it really great. I've played in Tel Aviv and Israel, and I've been to Indonesia, and the one thing that's really cool is that the way I'm seeing these places is I'm there as a musician, and I'm seeing people at concerts reacting to music and having a good time, and it's just so cool to see how music. There's all these different cultures and languages, but at the bottom line, people want to have fun and express themselves, and a concert is still a great thing for people of all nations, to go to and just enjoy music and kind of forget about the differences in culture and language barriers and all that sort of thing.
And with that, they get to see one of the best guitarists of all time, Richie Kotzen.
Who's that? No, that's funny. Right on. Thanks for the compliment. I've been playing my whole life. It's all I really do is play and sing, and so I feel really fortunate that I've been able to do that, because since I was a kid, that's just been my focus is music.
When's the first day you ever realized when you were younger that, wow, I'm making it the big time, I'll be remembered,
Well, I honestly never really looked at it that way. Once things started happening, I never really looked at it with that sort of a viewpoint. It was like when I was very young, I would think, well, I want to learn how to play the guitar, and then once I started learning it, I'm like, well, I want to learn more and keep going. And then I got to a point where I realized, well, I'm starting to write music. I want to make a record, and then I started doing that sort of thing. So it all kind of happened in stages. And I put in a lot of time and a lot of work. So, there's this kind of illusion, I think, out there where people just think that you learn that you're just born with the ability to sing or born with the ability to play an instrument, and it's really not true. I mean, it's something that you really have to devote a lot of time to, because the ultimate thing is experience. You need those years and that experience to really understand the power of being a musician and what can be done with an instrument. And the thing that's beautiful about it is there's always something new. You never really get to a point where you feel like you know it all, because then is when you start to suffer. It's one of those things. There's always something new to learn and figure out.
Now, who's the band members playing along, with these tours?
I have it's a trio. It's me with a bass player and a drummer. The bass player is a guy from Chicago by the name of Daniel Pearson, and the drummer is from Venezuela, and his name is Demian Arriaga. And they've been playing with me for a year as my band. Demian, the drummer, has been with me for 2 years, and it's a good hang. Part of the thing about being on the road, you need guys that can play your music the way you want to hear it, but you also need guys that you can hang out with and get along with. And these guys have become not only great players for me to play with, but good friends as well.
Someone like you, like, your guitar skills are, right up there. Do you still practice quite a bit?
Well, I don't so much practice the same way that I did, maybe 20 years ago. Things change as you learn, the instrument and grow. Your approach changes. And what tends to happen with me is I tend to hear melodies and phrases and different parts, things that would be played on the guitar. Oftentimes what I hear in my head, I can't physically play it. So when the practicing comes into play is trying to learn some of those things that I'm hearing that I can't do. So then I have to sit and teach my hands how to do what I'm hearing in my head. Or even better example is writing songs. Sometimes I write songs and then I come up with a guitar riff, for example, and I go in the studio and then I put a vocal line down. And I'm doing these things at different time. But when I have to play live, I do them both together. So that becomes tricky. So what I have to do is figure out how do I play this riff and sing it at the same time, and then you get into practicing.
Now your video, Paying Dues, that's on your website, now you're playing all the instruments in this video. Is that the way the whole album, Peace Sign, was made?
No. On that record, there's a lot of songs where I am playing on all the instruments, but there are 4 songs on the record that I have a studio drummer playing. Actually, on Paying Dues, I have to tell you that the drummer is not me on the record. The parts are parts that I was involved in writing, but the drums are performed by a studio guy. It just so happens on the video was done really as a kind of spur of the moment thing that my daughter and I did one day. She's a 12-year-old trying to be learning how to sing and just a creative kid in general, and we decided to make a video together. And she said, well, since you're usually playing all the instruments, let's do a video where you're doing that. So we really did it for fun and went in the studio and just set up a couple of different scenarios for the instruments and then recorded it and made a video out of it. And I ended up getting a lot of views on it in a short period of time, so I didn't think that would happen. But it was kind of a cool video. It was something fun to do, and we did it on a Saturday afternoon and then stuck it up on YouTube, which actually is a great thing about that. You can do something creative and immediately throw it out there and share it with people.
So basically it only took a weekend to do this video?
Yeah.
Wow.
It took one day. We did it in a day, and then the next day we edited it and then stuck it up there on YouTube. So recently I shot a new video for a song called Larger Than Life. It's a ballad on the new record, and that video is still being edited. I'm hoping that'll be done sometime soon, and then I'll put that on YouTube as well.
What do you think of the age with YouTube? How like you just said, you work on a video and the same day you got it posted on YouTube for the fans.
I think there's a lot of great things about it, and then there's negative, like anything else. I mean, the cool thing is that you can do creative things and share it with people without depending on a company to do it for you. And a person that is a singer can record their gig and share it without having to have a deal for it. So I think that's really cool. And then there's the other side of it where people use it to be mean, and there's people posting things up there that actually can ruin people's lives, and I think that's a little bit unfair. But that's more of a characteristic of people as individuals, not so much the medium of which they're doing it. It's it's the same thing. If you have a gun, it doesn't mean you're going to go out and start shooting people, and you'd be a criminal. So I mean, it's not so much that these social networking things are bad. It's just that people can do bad things, and that's something that you just can't really control. But I think the overall thing is that it's a cool thing. It gives creative people a chance to put out their ideas and share them with people, and I really like it.
Going back to you playing drums, how long have you been playing drums?
I bought a drum set when I was about 18. I had one in my house, not in my house, but in the studio. There was a place where I grew up. We had an old barn that was converted. It used to be horses and stuff in there, and then they converted it. it made it into a big rec room, but part of that, I made a studio in there, and I had all my equipment. So I had a drum set in there, and I'm never considered myself a drummer, but I can play. I can play on the records certain beats, and there's a certain feel that I can play on the drums, and it works with my music. So oftentimes what happens when I'm making a record, if I go in the studio and it's a beat that I hear in my head and I can play it to my liking, then I'll record it. And if I can't play it, then I call somebody. So if you notice, like on the Peace Sign record, I've got me playing drums on most of the material except for 4 songs. I didn't feel like I could have done a good job, so I called somebody else to do it. That's kind of how I work everything. If there's a keyboard part that I can't play, then I'll call someone else to play it. But if I can play it, I'll do it myself.
Would you say musicians that do play, lots of instruments tend to be bigger in, value of, as musicianships?
No, I don't think so, because
Nope.
I think the value, well, first of all, it's hard to judge that because it's not like it's sports. In other words, you can look at an athlete and see, look at the box scores or whatever you call it and see, how many shots they made and how many assists they had and all that stuff. So you can kind of gauge somebody's performance. As a musician, there's no way to do that, and there shouldn't be, because it's still, music is considered an art form. And art really is something I don't think should necessarily be judged. It should be looked at as if it moves you and you connect with it, great. And if not, you don't. But ultimately, it's the artist's perspective, and that's what makes it a great thing. So I don't really judge a musician that way. If I like the way somebody sounds and I like what they do creatively, then great. And if I don't, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with them. It just means that, my taste does not coincide with their particular presentation.
How's your guitar collections these days? You've kept a lot of guitars throughout the years?
I did. I kept some, and I regretfully sold some. I had a Paul Reed Smith that I had when I was 15. That was the 121st one they made, and I ended up selling it, which I regret, because now that guitar would be worth a lot of money, and it was a very pretty guitar. I also had an SG Custom that falls under the same category. It was a 69,
Wow.
68 or 69, and those 2 guitars today would be really worth having. But unfortunately, I don't have them. I do have some of the early one-of-a-kind endorsement guitars I got from Ibanez, and then when I signed with Fender in 1991, they made me a lot of really cool guitars that I still have that were what they call master built, which means that one guy built the entire guitar, which is pretty special. And then I have my collection that I actually use, because I have 2 signature models with Fender, and those guitars are made in Japan, and those are the ones that I use most of the time. I tour with those guitars. On the record, those are the guitars I play, and it's kind of a cool thing, because if I need a new instrument, I can get it, and it's consistent. They're all relatively, all of them feel the same way. The only thing I got to do is break them in and sand the finish off the neck, and then there it is. There's my guitar. So it's kind of a cool thing.
Do you find that guitars that aren't broken in, let's say you buy them brand new, there's a big difference, with playing abilities?
I think so. I mean, I think that the guitar, as you play it, they do feel more broken in, and they feel more like your own personal thing. You get more accustomed to it, more used to it. There's also a feel with an instrument that I like. I don't like a high gloss finish on the neck, so I like more of a natural wood feeling. So that's important for me to get the guitar where it feels that way. So, yes, I prefer a guitar that's been played in for sure.
Day in the life of Richie Kotzen. Now, what do you do in the morning when you get up?
Well, it depends. It depends on what's going on. There's different sort of modes that my life has. In other words, when I'm on tour, I'm constantly in motion. I do a show, I sleep in a hotel room. The next day, I'm packing and going to the next spot, and that's that's been the norm for me for quite a few years. I've been spending at least 50% of the year on the road, and most of the time, well, all the time until now, it has been overseas. So it's kind of a strange feeling because oftentimes I don't speak the language, and I'm riding around in a minibus or flying on a plane, and it's kind of a strange, surreal sort of life. And you spend a lot of time waiting just to do 2 hours worth of performance. But you have a lot of time to evaluate and think, which I try not to do. I think that gets me in trouble. So I try to just relax and enjoy the fact that I'm out there doing what I love. When I'm home and I'm not touring, then I might be in a studio mode where I'm recording my songs. And if I don't have any songs to record, I guess my hobby comes down to remodeling my house. I have a house that I've owned in Los Angeles for about 14 years, and I'm continually doing things to it. Actually, now I'm finally getting to a point where I'm running out of things to do, so I'll probably start thinking about moving. But for a long time, this has been a project, remodeling the house and updating things, and I do a lot of the work myself. If I wasn't a musician, I'd probably be doing something in the construction business, maybe architecturally or something along those lines. But that's kind of a hobby. And then finally is, and most importantly, is my daughter. I have a 13-year-old daughter that when I'm home in California, I try to spend as much time with her as I possibly can.
Busy life, and basically you fix your houses and then you sell them?
Well, I did that with a recording studio a few years ago. I bought a recording studio when I came off the road with Mr. Big. I had a good year, and I went and found a commercial building and remodeled it and turned it into a recording studio. And I held the building for about 3 years, and then I turned around and sold it, and that was kind of fun. And it was a cool project because I was able to kind of design something and put a lot of my heart and soul into it, and I was able to enjoy it for a while, and then pass it off to somebody else to enjoy. And the guys from Blink-182 ended up buying it from me, and now I guess they're running their operation down there. But yeah, I really think if I wasn't a musician, I'd definitely be doing something along the remodeling houses line of work. I really enjoy it, and I'm really into to that sort of stuff.
You must watch the show Home Makeover and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. My girlfriend was just on that show. Her and her sister, Brie Bella, were just on there, a special guest. They did like a WWE episode. She's a professional wrestler, and so they went in there and took a house and basically destroyed it, and then rebuilt it, and it looked incredible when they were done with it.
So you're basically going out with a WWE superstar.
I know, so I got to be careful I don't get my ass kicked.
Now, is there any wrestling matches at night?
Yeah. They definitely there's some matches that go on, but I got to make sure, she knows all the moves. So if I say something that pisses her off, then I'm liable to end up with a cast or something on my arm.
That wouldn't be too good.
No, it would not be good at all.
In that sense, did you ever meet Shawn Michaels? Shawn
Michaels, I met. I don't think I ever talked to Shawn Michaels. I met The Miz. He's been over to the house. He and I have hung out. The Edge, and met Batista, and met a lot of those guys. Jeff Hardy. I like all those guys. I like watching them because it's, it takes a lot of athleticism to go in there and do what they do. They get smacked around. I mean, I know that, a lot of it's scripted and a lot of the hits aren't real, but they take a lot of bumps, and those flying across the ring and falling out and getting hit on the head with a chair, all that shit takes its toll for sure. It's something I wouldn't do.
Do they even know that you're an excellent guitarist? That you could do their music.
A lot of the guys do. And when on this tour, some of the guys live in Florida. I guess a couple of them are coming out to some of the shows when I'm down in Tampa because they have their training facility down there. So I'm sure I'll run into some of those guys. Chris Jericho, I think he's coming to one of the shows. I went to one of his shows recently in Arizona when I was there for WrestleMania. He's got a band, real
Fozzy.
kick-ass metal band, and they did their thing. It was packed house, so he was talking about coming to my show if he can.
Well,
Yeah.
Richie, man, awesome talking to you, and sounds like you got a great life ahead, and still got one good life.
Right on, man. Well, thanks for the interview, and maybe I'll meet you at one of these shows. All right. Right on.
All right, man. Talk to you
Talk
later.
to you later.
Have a
Bye.
good night.
Good night.